You're not missing him. You're missing the version of him that showed up first and then vanished like it never existed. Because the first version didn't just feel nice. It felt clean, simple, certain. He looked at you like he already decided. And here's the misread moment. You treat that first version like it was the real him, and everything after that like it's just a phase he'll grow out of. It usually starts in a scene you can replay with your eyes closed. It's early. He's consistent. He texts back like he's happy you exist. He makes plans without acting like it's a negotiation. He asks questions and actually listens to the answers. And when you're with him, he's present. Not half there. Not checking out. Present. Then one night, it gets a little deeper. Maybe it's the first time you sleep together. Maybe it's the first time he opens up about something real. Maybe it's just the first time you feel his energy change, like he's not trying anymore because he thinks he has you. And the next morning, something is off. Not dramatic. Not obvious enough to confront. Just off. His good morning text comes later than usual, or it's shorter, or he reads yours and doesn't answer for hours. You tell yourself he's busy, but you can feel the difference in your body. Not panic. More like a quiet drop, like the room got colder and no one admitted it. So you do what most women do. You go back to the beginning in your mind. You replay the first version of him like it's evidence, like it proves you weren't imagining it. You think, that was real. That wasn't fake. I felt it. He said it. He did it. So this must be stress, fear, timing, work, something I can outlast. And that's how the hope starts. Not because he's treating you well now, but because he treated you well first. That's the trap. The first version of him becomes your reference point, your standard, your I know who he really is story. So when he gets distant, you don't read it as information. You read it as a temporary glitch. You tell yourself, once he feels safe, he'll come back. Once he figures out what he wants, he'll come back. Once he realizes I'm not going anywhere, he'll come back. But the reason it hurts so much is because it's not just silence. It's silence after intimacy. Distance after warmth. A colder man wearing the face of someone who once felt so close. And you can't stop thinking one thing. Where did that man go? So you keep acting like you're still dating him. You text in the same soft way you did when he was sweet. You stay patient the way you were when he was consistent. You give him the benefit of the doubt, like the early version earned it. Meanwhile, the current version is living by totally different rules. And that's the part nobody says out loud. You're not waiting for him to choose you. You're waiting for him to become the man he was before the distance started. Because if that first version was the truth, then your hope makes sense. But if that first version was just the beginning, then what you're doing now isn't love. It's loyalty to a memory. And that's where most women get stuck, right there in that quiet moment when you realize the man you're trying to reach isn't the man who's answering your texts anymore. And once you're loyal to that memory, everything he does after starts getting translated through it. That's why you don't just notice the shift. You argue with it inside your own head. Because what you thought it meant was simple. If he showed me that version, it's in him. So if I stay calm, stay steady, stay understanding, I'll get that man back. You didn't call it hoping. Not at first. You called it being mature. You called it not being needy. You called it giving someone space. And in the beginning, that sounds reasonable. Because the early version of him didn't feel like an act. It felt like a man who finally saw you, a man who wasn't scared, a man who wasn't playing with you. So when he starts pulling back, you don't assume he changed. You assume something happened. You assume there's a reason you just haven't earned the right to hear yet. So you start filling in the blanks with the kindest story possible. He's overwhelmed. He's been hurt before. He's stressed at work. He's not good at talking. He's just taking it slow. And I want you to notice something. All of those stories have one thing in common. They make his distance feel temporary, and your patience feel powerful. Because if his behavior is just fear or stress, then your love can fix it. Your softness can calm it. Your loyalty can prove something. So you start treating the relationship like a test you can pass. Here's the real-life scene. You send a text you don't even like because you're trying to sound easy. You type what you actually want to say. Are we okay? I feel you pulling away. Then you erase it, and you replace it with something lighter. Hope your day's going good. You're not being casual because you feel casual. You're being casual because you're trying not to scare the early version of him away. Then hours go by. You check your phone, set it down, pick it up again. You read your own message like it's a clue. You start wondering if the message was too warm or not warm enough. You start bargaining with yourself like, if he replies tonight, I won't bring it up. And when he finally answers, it's 2 words. Crazy day. And what do? You accept it. Not because it feels good, because it feels like something, because you're still chasing that first version, and you think any reply is a step back toward him. That's what you thought it meant. That the warmth was the truth, and the distance was just a mood. That the man who planned dates and checked on you and looked proud to have you is still there, just temporarily buried. So you keep looking for signs, a slightly longer message, a late-night call when he's lonely, a sudden burst of affection after 2 days of silence. And every time it happens, your brain goes, there, see? That's him. That's why the thumbnail line hits so hard. That version is gone. Because you're not stuck on a man. You're stuck on what the beginning promised. And the most painful part is this. The beginning wasn't just attention. It felt like proof that you were finally safe with him. So when the safe feeling disappears, you don't just miss him. You start chasing safety. And that's when the pattern turns addictive, because you're not trying to win him. You're trying to get back to the part where you felt chosen, because that first version didn't show up by accident. And once you understand why he could be so strong in the beginning, you stop confusing intensity with consistency. And that's where it gets dangerous. Because every little spark from him starts feeling like he's coming back, when really it's just him checking that the door is still open. Here's what was really happening in the beginning. A lot of men can be amazing at the start for one simple reason. The start doesn't demand anything from them yet. Early on, he gets all the good parts. He gets your attention, your care, your softness, and the feeling of being wanted. Without the responsibility of being steady. He can show up strong in the beginning because he's still in control of the pace. He's choosing when to text. He's choosing when to see you. He's choosing when to turn it up. And in that phase, he can feel like a man who's fully ready. Not because he's faking, because he's operating in the one zone that feels safe to him. The zone where nothing is required yet. Then something shifts. It's usually right after a moment that makes it real. After sex. After you get emotionally close. After he says something that sounds like commitment. After you start acting like this is going somewhere, and he feels it. Not because you did something wrong, because the relationship just crossed a line. Before that, he could enjoy the closeness. After that, he had to respond to what the closeness created. Your expectations became real. Your feelings became real. And suddenly, this wasn't just a fun moment anymore. You're a real person who will eventually ask, "So, what are we doing?" And for a man who isn't steady inside, that question feels like pressure. So he doesn't answer it. He creates distance, so he doesn't have to be honest. Let me make it painfully clear. A man can mean what he says in the early days, and still not be capable of staying that man. That's the part women struggle to accept, because you think, if it was real, it should continue. But for him, real might only mean real in the moment, real when he's in the mood, real when he misses you, real when he wants closeness on his terms, not real as in, "I'm building something with you." Here's the scene that explains it. He's warm at night. He calls late. His voice is soft. He says things like, "I like you. I don't know what it is about you." Or, "I feel calm with you." Or he's suddenly honest, suddenly open, suddenly there. You go to sleep thinking, "Okay, we're back." Then the next day, he's distant. Not mean, not cruel, just hard to reach. Because at night, he wanted comfort. By daylight, he wanted his freedom back. And the worst part is, he'll act confused if you mention it. He'll say, "Nothing's wrong," or "I'm just busy," or "You're overthinking." And you start doubting yourself because technically, he didn't do anything you can point at. That's the strategy, without him even saying it out loud. Stay vague enough that you can't confront him. Stay sweet enough that you don't leave. Stay inconsistent enough that you keep hoping. So what was really happening is this. That early version of him was not a promise. It was a preview of what he can do when it's light, easy, and on his timeline. But when the relationship starts asking for steadiness, he doesn't rise to it. He retreats from it. And not because you're too much, because he was never planning to carry the full weight of what he started with you. He wanted the beginning. He wanted the spark. He wanted the feeling of being close without the responsibility of staying close. So he gives you little returns. A sweet message after 2 days. A sudden plan when he feels you pulling away. A warm night, right when you're about to give up. Not because he's becoming the man from the beginning again, but because he can't let you fully detach. Because as long as you're still hoping, he doesn't have to lose access. And this is where it gets brutal. The version you met first wasn't who he is. It was who he is when there's nothing to maintain. And once you live around that kind of distance long enough, the real damage starts quietly. Not just in what he does, but in what you start becoming around him. And once you see that, you also start seeing the other part, what it did to you. Because his inconsistency doesn't just hurt your feelings, it slowly changes the way you move through your own life. At first, you're normal. You have your routine, your friends, your plans, your confidence. You like him, but you're still you. Then the pattern starts tightening around you. Not all at once. Quietly. You wake up, and the first thing you do is check if he replied. Not because you're obsessed, because your brain learned that his mood decides what kind of day you're allowed to have. If he's warm, you feel light. If he's cold, you feel heavy. And that's the part that messes with your dignity, because you're not even chasing attention anymore. You're chasing relief. Here's a real moment. You're in the middle of something normal, work, errands, talking to a friend, and your phone lights up. It's him. Your whole body reacts before your mind does. Your stomach flips. Your face changes. You suddenly want to be alone so you can read it properly. And the message is something small. Hey you, or miss you, or a meme like nothing happened. And you feel it. That rush, that calm, that, okay, we're good. Then 2 hours later, he disappears again. Now you're not calm. You're stuck. You start thinking in circles. Did I reply too fast? Was I too cold? Too warm? Should I have waited? Should I have acted like I didn't care? And that's how his inconsistency trains you to become someone you don't even recognize. You stop saying what you feel when you feel it. You start editing yourself. You don't ask for clarity directly. You hint. You don't ask where you stand. You go with the flow. You don't bring up the shift. You swallow it, because you're scared one honest sentence will make him vanish for good. And you tell yourself you're being chill, but you're not chill. You're on edge. Because when a man is consistent, you don't have to manage yourself like this. You don't have to calculate tone. You don't have to rehearse texts. You don't have to pretend the silence doesn't hurt. The deeper consequence is the one nobody sees. You start losing trust in your own instincts. Because you felt the early version. It felt real. So when the current version treats you like an option, your mind tries to protect the dream. It tells you, maybe I'm reading it wrong. Maybe I'm asking for too much. Maybe I'm being dramatic. Maybe if I'm more patient, he'll settle. So even when your gut is screaming, you override it. That's why this drains you. Not just because he's distant, because you're constantly working to stay emotionally stable in a situation that keeps moving. Another scene, you're getting ready to go out. You look good. You should feel good. But there's a quiet sadness in the background because you don't know if he'll reach out tonight. You're with your friends, but part of you is waiting. You laugh, but you keep checking your phone in your lap. And if he texts, your mood changes instantly. That's not romance. That's your peace, depending on a man who won't fully show up. And the worst part is what it does to your standards. You start accepting tiny things as big things. A simple good morning feels like effort. A plan made 2 hours before feels like commitment. A warm night feels like proof, because the bar gets lowered without you realizing it. His inconsistency makes basic respect feel like a reward. And that's where the real damage is. You don't just miss him. You miss the version of you who wasn't constantly trying to interpret a man. The version of you who didn't need to figure it out. And if you've been in this long enough, you start feeling tired in a specific way. Not tired like I need sleep. Tired like I don't know what's true anymore. And this is where the spell starts to break. Not with a speech, not with a slogan, with one clean truth. You cannot keep waiting for a version of him that only existed when nothing was required from him. And when you reach that I don't know what's true anymore place, that's usually when you start begging life for one clean answer. Not from him, from reality. Because you don't want drama. You just want to know if you're holding on to something real, or if you're just loyal to the beginning. So here's the real truth. The man you met at first might have been genuine, but he wasn't sustainable. And that difference changes everything. Because you've been treating the beginning like a promise, like if he could be that man, then that must be who he is. But a man is not defined by his best week. He's defined by what he can keep doing when it's no longer new, when you're not a fresh feeling, when closeness asks him to show up even when he's not in the mood. That's the line. The early version of him was easy because it was light, because he had control, because he could come toward you and pull away without consequences. But once you needed steadiness, his real limit showed up. And here's what you have to understand to finally stop hoping. If a man only shows up fully at the start, that's not a rough patch. That's the relationship he is actually giving you. That's the pattern. So when the thumbnail says that version is gone, it doesn't mean he's evil. It means you saw his best version in the only season where it was easy for him to show it. And now you're living in the season where he has to maintain it. And he can't, or he won't. Either way, the result is the same. Let me give you a scene that will feel familiar. You finally get the courage to bring it up. Not in an angry way, in a careful way. You say something like, "I just feel you've been a little distant lately." And he goes quiet, or he sighs, or he gets defensive. He says, "I'm just dealing with a lot." Or, "I don't like pressure." Or, "Why are you making this a thing?" And in that moment, you see it. Not in words, in his energy. The early version of him would have leaned in. The current version sees your feelings as a problem to manage. And that's the moment you stop asking, "How do I get him back?" And you start asking the only question that matters. Why am I fighting for a man who only feels safe when I ask for nothing? Because that's what this pattern rewards. It rewards your silence. It rewards your patience. It rewards you shrinking your needs down to something he can tolerate. And the cost is always the same. You pay with your peace. So the real truth is not, "He'll never change." The real truth is, you can't build your life around the hope that a man will become consistent later. Because later is not a plan. Later is where women waste years. The beginning is what got you attached. But the middle is what tells you the truth. A man who wants you doesn't make you live on guesses. He doesn't make you feel like you're asking for too much just by wanting basic clarity. He doesn't punish closeness with distance. And here's the cleanest way to hold your dignity without turning cold or bitter. Stop dating his potential. Date his pattern. Because the pattern is the relationship you actually have. Not the first week, not the sweet night, not the version that appears right when you're about to leave. The pattern. And once you accept the pattern, something in you calms down. You stop scanning your phone like it's a heart monitor. You stop trying to write the perfect text. You stop treating his random warmth like a sign that everything is changing. You start seeing it for what it is. Access without responsibility. And when you finally see that clearly, the spell breaks. You don't have to hate him. You don't have to get closure. You just have to tell yourself the truth. The man I'm waiting for is not the man I'm with. And you deserve a relationship where the first version is not a rare event. It is the baseline. The way he treats you when things are easy should not be the best he ever gives you. It should be the beginning of how he keeps showing up.